Welcome to today's Explainer. Get ready because today we're breaking down an absolute masterclass in ambition and strategy. We're going to look at exactly how Dhirubhai Ambani architected Reliance Industries into an absolute juggernaut. I mean, we're talking about a company that today earns a staggering 2 crore rupees every single minute.
Okay, let's dive into this, because the juxtaposition here is just shocking. On one side, you have the immense modern wealth of Reliance today. Like I said, 2 crore generated every 60 seconds. But then, on the other side, you see the origin. Just an ordinary clerk, standing out in the blazing sun for hours, filling vehicles with petrol. So how exactly do you cross the chasm from that humble start to a global empire? Well, let's find out.
Section 1. The Petrol Clerk's Dream, 1932 to 1958.
The story actually begins way back in 1932. Born into poverty to a school teacher in a village in Gujarat, a 16-year-old Dhirubhai knew his family's income just wasn't going to cut it. So, following an old community tradition, he traveled 2,400 kilometers away to Aden. He actually landed a job at ABC & Company, and during his interview, the manager noted something really fascinating. He had these notoriously heavy, urgent footsteps. It was as if he had somewhere very important to be and very little time to get there. And, well, that urgency totally translated into his first major financial move in the early 1950s. Honestly, this is straight out of a heist movie. He noticed this incredible loophole with the local currency, the Yemeni rial. Look at these numbers for a second. The exchange value of a batch of coins might be 10 British pounds, but the actual melted silver value of those exact same coins was 12 British pounds. So he just placed massive orders for rials, melted them down, and sold the silver to bullion dealers in London, pocketing a direct £2 profit every single time. By the time authorities finally grew suspicious 3 months later, he'd already earned several lakhs.
Section 2. Mastering Import License Arbitrage, 1958 to 1965.
Now, what's really interesting about this next phase is how he capitalized on government rules. By 1958, a 26-year-old Dhirubhai decided it was time to stop working for other people. So he returned to Bombay and set up Reliance Commercial Corporation. This massive empire? It started in a tiny 350-square-foot room with just one phone, one table, 3 chairs, and a partnership with his cousin Champaklal Damani. To understand his next big move, we have to look at India's strict import restrictions at the time. Basically, there was a massive domestic shortage of highly demanded synthetic threads, things like nylon and polyester. To balance trade, the government issued replenishment licenses, or reps, to textile exporters. Essentially, the way it worked was if you exported 100 rupees of textiles, the government permitted you to import 20 rupees worth of artificial threads.
Dhirubhai noticed that a ton of exporters had these licenses but weren't even using them. So he aggressively exploited this loophole. Step 1, he bought up these unused licenses by offering exporters top dollar. Step 2, by acquiring the bulk of the licenses, he practically monopolized the flow of synthetic threads into India. And then Step 3, he sold those highly sought-after imported threads to desperate domestic manufacturers at absolute maximum profit margins. It was just a brilliant squeeze. It's actually a perfect lesson in finding hidden inefficiencies in a market and positioning yourself right in the middle.
But, as you might guess, this intense, risk-taking approach caused a bit of a rift. Dhirubhai anticipated thread prices would rise, so he was aggressively hoarding inventory. His cautious partner, Champaklal, kind of panicked and forced him to sell. Well, Dhirubhai did sell. He sold to himself. And he made massive profits weeks later when prices inevitably spiked. Realizing their styles just didn't match at all, Dhirubhai and his brother bought out Champaklal in 1965 for 6 lakh rupees, taking total, absolute control of Reliance.
Section 3. Building the Vimal brand in the 1970s.
Within a year, Dhirubhai decided he wasn't satisfied just being a thread supplier. He wanted to manufacture the textiles himself. So he bought land in Naroda, Gujarat, and started up with just 4 knitting machines. Benefiting from some political instability back in Aden, he hired returning Gujarati expats to instantly fill his ranks with ready-made, experienced managers and salesmen. He also recognized that the Indian market literally had no established textile brands. People just bought whatever was cheapest. To change this, he launched the brand Only Vimal, positioning it as a premium, exclusive fabric for the masses. And he poured a massive 1 crore rupees every single year into advertising, funding fashion shows and billboards in a market that had previously never seen anything like it.
The growth was just explosive. He introduced a Western-style franchise distribution model, creating 400 franchise shops across the country. By 1979, the Naroda factory had expanded to 25 lakh square feet. The workforce swelled to 5,000 employees, and revenues hit 155 crore. This made Reliance India's largest textile producer.
So the crucial point is how he actually funded all of this. To fund this massive expansion, in 1977, he launched the Reliance IPO. Before this, really only wealthy families and institutions invested in IPOs. Dhirubhai totally bypassed them and made the Indian middle class his partners. He offered 28 lakh shares at 10 rupees each. It was oversubscribed 7 times, and when trading began, prices rapidly hit 50 rupees. He multiplied their investments 5 times over, becoming an absolute hero to the middle-class investor. This right here is a masterclass in community building. He realized that if he made the middle class rich, they would fund his ambitions forever.
Section 4. Crushing the Bear Cartel, 1982.
Now, obviously, this meteoric rise attracted some pretty powerful enemies. In 1982, a Kolkata-based bear cartel decided to launch a full-scale, aggressive attack on Reliance shares, setting the stage for one of the most thrilling battles in Indian stock market history. To understand their attack, we just need to quickly define short selling. The cartel's plan was simple: borrow Reliance shares from the market, sell them at the current high price, intentionally trigger a panic so the price drops, and then buy those shares back at the newly lowered price to return them. They'd pocket the difference as pure profit.
And man, they went all in. On March 18th, the bears dumped 3.5 lakh borrowed shares in just half an hour. This dropped the price from 131 rupees down to 121. But then, a massive plot twist. A mysterious group of West Asian buyers stepped in and absorbed every single share the cartel dumped. The bears kept selling, the mystery buyers kept purchasing. By April 30th, instead of crashing, the price rocketed up to 201 rupees. The cartel was totally squeezed into ruin, forced to buy back shares at a massive loss. And the twist? Well, those mysterious buyers were allegedly backed by Dhirubhai himself, defending his own company with a 10 crore rupee counteroffensive.
Section 5. Rivals, Politics, and Setbacks in the 1980s. While the bear squeeze definitely made him a market legend, navigating the 1970s and 80s required a lot more than just financial strategy. This was the era of the license Raj in India. It was a highly regulated, really complex environment where the government controlled almost all aspects of industrial expansion. To operate in this environment, it's reported that Dhirubhai maintained strong relationships across all political spectrums. Navigating the license Raj meant using persuasion and strategy to secure favorable operating conditions. For example, he allegedly utilized this political influence to secure the high unit value scheme in 1971. This allowed Reliance to import highly valuable polyester yarn in exchange for exporting nylon, a move that significantly benefited the company's growth.
This intense environment naturally led to some brutal corporate warfare. Reliance found itself in a fierce rivalry with Nestle Wadia's Bombay Dyeing. During this period, Bombay Dyeing faced mysterious government license blocks and unexplained customs detentions on their equipment, alongside a negative media campaign supposedly run by a group of journalists dubbed the Dirty Dozen. In response, Ramnath Goenka of the Indian Express unleashed a series of aggressive exposés against Reliance. This resulted in intense government scrutiny for Dhirubhai, including 27 crore rupees in excise evasion notices and a CBI inquiry being initiated.
The immense stress of these corporate wars took a profound toll on him. In 1986, Dhirubhai suffered a massive stroke. For weeks, he actually hovered between life and death in a U.S. hospital. When he finally returned to India, the right side of his body was completely paralyzed. His hand was twisted, and walking was incredibly difficult. A lot of people thought the era of Dhirubhai was just over, but his resilience was unmatched. His body was slowed, sure, but his mind remained incredibly sharp, and he immediately immersed himself back into the business to complete his grandest vision.
Let's move to Section 6 and see how this builds. The ultimate backward integration, 1982 to 2000.
So, up until now, Reliance bought chemicals and threads from other companies to make Vimal textiles. But Dhirubhai's ultimate dream was absolute independence. He wanted to own the entire supply chain through total backward integration. Here's the brilliant strategic sequence he envisioned. Instead of just weaving textiles at step 4, he wanted to manufacture the polyester threads himself at step 3. To do that, he needed to produce his own petrochemicals at step 2, which meant ultimately he had to refine his own crude oil at step 1. He put his son Mukesh Ambani in charge of the Padalganga polyester plant, and they got it operational in a record-breaking 18 months. And get this, when devastating floods submerged that exact factory in 1989, Mukesh's team dismantled, cleaned, and completely rebuilt the whole thing in just one single month. It's the ultimate lesson in controlling your own destiny. If you rely on others for your raw materials, you're vulnerable.
The final piece of this giant puzzle was the oil refinery. Announced in 1993, the Jamnagar refinery was a staggering $6 billion mega project. At the time, it was literally India's largest private industrial investment. Constructed in just 3 years and operational by 2000, it single-handedly refined 25% of all of India's crude oil. That's 27 million tons annually. Dhirubhai's lifelong dream of total backward integration was officially complete.
And here is a fantastic, genuinely surprising fact about this massive industrial achievement. Because the Jamnagar refinery was built in a really harsh desert region, Dhirubhai decided to transform the landscape. He planted an environmental oasis right next to the industrial giant. We're talking over 102,800 mango trees in total. In doing so, he actually broke the historic record for mango tree planting previously held by Mughal Emperor Akbar. No way, right?
In April 2002, while addressing his shareholders, Dhirubhai reflected on how he started as just a simple clerk in Aden, with a dream to build a global energy company for India, a dream he had now completely fulfilled. He shared these powerful words with them. Our dreams must be bigger, our ambitions higher, our commitment deeper, and our efforts greater. Just 2 months later, in July 2002, he suffered his final stroke and passed away, leaving behind India's largest company.
From melting coins in Aden to building the world's largest refinery from the ground up, Dhirubhai Ambani totally redefined what was possible. Looking at the sheer scale of his backward integration and his relentless drive, it leaves us with one massive question to think about. How will Dhirubhai Ambani's blueprint shape the next century of global business? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today.